All right, so I'd like to start by sharing, well, why are we doing video interviews? Why did we choose this format and why is this a part of our application process? Well, it really starts with understanding our context. And the way that I'm going to share this with you is using our graduate data. And it really comes down to three key things. So the first is our unique geographical needs. Our applicants are spread out across the state and the country. And we have, if you look at our data, about half of our candidates are on Oahu, but the other half are really kind of spread out mostly across our state and all the different islands. Another thing is we serve a lot of different kinds of people. And so if you look at the age range of the people who are in our programs, it's very diverse. We have the largest subgroup is between the ages of 26 and 35, but really, all our different programs support, more traditional students who are coming out of high school all the way towards career changers and people who are pursuing it kind of later in life. In addition, a large majority of the candidates who pursue our programs are working, and often they're working in our public school system. And so if you look at the chart at the very bottom, it shows that almost a quarter of our candidates aren't working in a school, but a lot of them are. We support a lot of educational assistants, emergency hired teachers, and a lot of other people that are already in school settings. So how does this come into play? It really is about efficiency. With our candidates who are applicants who are working during the day, our faculty teach our coursework actually in the evenings. And so it became really tricky on finding and being able to find times that fits both. We're also the largest teacher prep institution in the state. And so we also have a lot of different programs. And so we need time to be able to review and process all of our applications in a timely manner. So what did we do before we had this system, which we began in 2017? So prior to that, we did have in-person interviews. So after our applicants submitted their applications, we would invite them to come to a UH campus, whether it was UH Mānoa or it was one of our partner community college campuses on various islands. And each applicant would have to come to the campus and meet with two faculty members to complete their interview. So the pros of this approach was we did get to meet all of our applicants in person, and it provided the opportunity to kind of have that back and forth question, answer, a little bit, opportunity to just talk story. And so we got to know our applicants in a more personal way through that method. But there really were a lot of challenges involved. The first one really just being coordinating all those interviews. It was costly both with people's time and it cost money to fly out faculty. It even cost for our applicants because we would find that they would have to take, a day off of work or find a babysitter or things like that to be able to come in person. Another thing was because it was live, then it really relied on the two faculty members to make that decision. So if there was, if they didn't agree, then there wasn't really an opportunity to have more of an inter-rater reliability of throwing in another person who could help make the final decision. But the worst part of it all in terms of our previous method of doing it was that it took a really long time to coordinate everything, to conduct all the interviews. And what it ended up doing was resulting in really long delays in admissions decisions. And that had a whole bunch of problems in itself. So what we ended up doing is we found out about vidcruiter, which allows us to do these video recorded responses. And so we piloted it. So when we first heard about it, we thought, okay, well, let's try it and see if it works for our needs. And so we did test it out for 2 different application cycles. We gathered feedback both from all of our applicants as well as our faculty to determine, is this something that can work for us? And we presented the results nationally at a conference. So if you would like to look at the results that were presented, the link is in the slide so that you can check it out. But overall, what we found was that it was more convenient. And although it was a little nerve-wracking for people who had never done it before. We found that most of our applicants did choose that was a better format for them in the end. So here's one example of a quote that came from the applicant, one of our applicants in the pilot study, who said, "I arranged to do the interview at a time that was convenient for me. I also liked that the interview questions were recorded by the Mānoa special education staff themselves. I appreciated that the question was left posted on the recording page so that I could reference it back to it during my answer." And so those were just a couple, things that they had noticed that was pretty convenient about this new system. But what we did find is the ones who didn't like it, really, it was mostly about the fact that they felt like they didn't get to say the things that they had wanted to say. And so we realized that what we didn't include in our first pilot of this approach was an opportunity to just share anything that you wanted to. So now we do. So the final question as part of this process will always include, is there anything else you would like to share? And so we were able to utilize the feedback and provide and make sure that this opportunity is going to be available no matter which program you're applying to when you use this format. So what does it look like now? So after we did the pilot study and the feedback did come back primarily positive and saying that this is a good system to use, we have been using it ever since. And so now all of our applicants can record their responses to their interviews during the application period. So they can pick the time, the place that they want to conduct it, and submit it whenever it's most convenient for them. And then once all the applications are in, our faculty are assigned to review all of the submissions, and they do it independently of one another so that they're not biasing each other's decisions. And so the pros of this approach that we use now is that it's really accessible. It doesn't matter where you are. Everyone has equal access to be able to complete it. It's much more convenient because, like we said, you pick the time, you pick the day, and you get it in whenever you can get it in. It's flexible. If you plan to do it and then something happens and you can't do it anymore, then you can change that. It doesn't require a lot of back and forth coordination. It's free for you guys, for the applicants to use. It won't cost them anything. It's less subjective because now the faculty members get to review it independently of one another, and it's way more efficient. So now we can provide our admissions decisions a lot faster. The downsides that we recognize still exist is that a lot of people are just generally uncomfortable and unfamiliar with this format. And so that's what we're putting these slides together to help and try to help everyone get more familiar with it before they have to do it. We do recognize it's still less personal because you can't do that back and forth question and answers. You can't use follow-up questions if you wanted to. There's the possibility of running into tech issues. And so we recognize that that's definitely still possible. And on our end, it does cost us. So we do pay to have this platform every year, but we feel like the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And so there's a couple other things I just wanted to go over is, well, why is it designed the way it is? And there's two things that people usually wonder about. And the first is, well, why is it timed? And is it only 2 minutes? And we just want to share that you don't need to study for this. There's nothing that you need to have to know in order to do your interview. So it's really just an opportunity for you to give a concise but personal response to something. And so we don't feel like it needs to be something that's really long and drawn out. And when you think about it, when each question is put together, it's actually about 12 minutes of you speaking in total. And why is the essay timed for 30 minutes? Well, we used to have a standardized exam. So we used to require that all of our applicants would submit their praxis writing scores. But we realized that there was a lot of barriers with that, access. It cost the applicants a lot to take the test. You'd have to wait to get the results, things like that. So because we acknowledge how important writing is, especially in the field of special education, we wanted to make sure that we were still assessing writing. And so we put in the 30-minute timed essay as a way to assess the current writing competencies and skills of our applicants, but mostly so that we can determine do our applicants actually need writing support. Because if we recognize that there's something early that we can help with, then we would rather do that while they're in the program. And so just think of it as our ability to kind of do that without having to use a standardized exam. And so the second part is people will ask, well, how come we can't re-record? And our faculty did discuss this quite a bit when making the decision to go with no, just a one-time only. And why can't you get the questions ahead of time? And really, there was two reasons. So the first one is efficiency. We did not want anyone to try and perfect their responses. We know that if you can record, sometimes people will just re-record and re-record and re-record. And we just didn't feel that that was necessary. So we wanted to kind of prevent that from happening. Another thing is we do feel like it's more effective if you're only given one chance, then it's more natural and your immediate response and thoughts rather than being able to change it and go back to it and really craft it, which might not be as natural or personal of a response had it been that as if you had done it with us live, which is what we wanted because that's how we used to do our interviews. So just a little bit of extra additional information for why we do these things and why we made the decisions we made. And so in summary, what is it? Like what it is and what it is not. So what it is we feel that this system is a more efficient and effective tool to provide access to all of our applicants. And it's an opportunity to still get to know each of our applicants rather than just using your paper-based materials that you submit as part of your application. We feel that this gives us the opportunity to hear about your experiences, your perspectives, your interests, as well as we do use it to assess communication skills and the fit for our program. We only use this platform in our online or statewide programs, which means that there is going to be technology involved in doing the entire program. So being able to see how people navigate this technology also gives us insight into that. But what it is not, it's not to see how comfortable you are in this format. We understand that people are going to be nervous. It's not about how confident you feel in or you present yourself in the interview itself. It's not an assessment of everything you know, which is why we put a limit on the response time. And it truly is not a process to weed out applicants. We are not trying to prevent people from coming into our program. So please don't view it that way. We hope that you'll see that we've chosen this platform for reasons, and we've taken a lot of time and effort to make sure that it gives opportunities to our applicants and reduces a lot of the barriers and inefficiencies that we had experienced prior. So hopefully that helps, and it helps alleviate some of the anxiety you might have related to this platform.